Welcome to a new episode of Spirit in Stone. Today we're gonna take you on a journey to Abusir, where we explored some truly breathtaking pyramids and temple complexes. Just south of Giza, between Zawyet el-Aryan and Saqqara, lies a forgotten strip of desert that is officially not open for tourists and that only few people ever get to see: the Pyramid Field of Abusir. In this video, we will explore the majestic pyramids of Abusir and their mysterious valley temples. And once again, we found traces of what looks like highly advanced ancient technology. After that, we will visit a forgotten mastaba with a mysterious granite box that has been decorated with limestone from the inside.
Egyptian key.
And finally, we will go searching for a mysterious so-called unfinished pyramid that shows striking similarities to the infamous unfinished pyramid of Zawyet el-Aryan. So, sit back, grab a drink, and enjoy this tour through Abusir. First, let's take a quick look at the map here. Here we have Egypt and the pyramids of Giza, and just south of Giza lies the community of Zawyet el-Aryan. And this area has been converted into a massive military base, and this is also where the so-called unfinished pyramid of Zawyet el-Aryan is located, right in the middle of this restricted military zone. I already did a video about Zawyet el-Aryan, the unfinished pyramid, and this mysterious military base. You can find it here on the channel. And today we're heading further south to Abusir. And Abusir is a highly fascinating place. There is an entire pyramid field here waiting to be discovered. But most tourists never make it to this place because they don't even know Abusir exists, because the Egyptian government, they don't really promote this as a tourist attraction at all. So it's very rare that people visit this place. And also officially, this entire pyramid field is not accessible at the moment. It has been closed already for a couple of years, and technically nobody is really allowed to go in there. But as so often in Egypt, if you simply go there and talk to the locals, things can change very quick. So I drove there by myself with my rental car, and I parked my car somewhere here by the road. And yeah, it's the same story as always. I found some locals there who were hanging out there. Some of them were wearing police or military uniform. And first they told me, no, you cannot visit it. It's closed. It's not open for tourism. But if you talk to them for a bit, sooner or later, they will tell you what is the price to visit this place. As I said, I parked my car here by the road, and then I walked up this majestic causeway of the Pyramid of Sahure. And that's where our journey begins today. And right from the start, things got a bit strange here in Abusir. First of all, I was not allowed to film this part here. The entire causeway, they didn't allow me to film. They told me I can only start recording once I reach the top in front of the pyramid. And that's where our video begins today. But while I was walking up there, I was able to secretly record a few short clips. I'm not really sure why it was not allowed to film that area, but I saw a few interesting things there, which I will show you at the end of this video. Yeah, I managed to record some very, very interesting and precise drill holes there at the causeway. All of this I will show you at the end of the video. But what I can tell you already, that all along this causeway, there are many large granite stones and fragments of granite with very precise and pretty deep drill holes. So these tool marks, they looked extremely interesting to me. I managed to film them briefly while going up. I pretended that I didn't really understand their instructions. Yeah, and this whole day I was not allowed to walk around alone this area. So someone was with me all the time. And while I was recording these stones while walking up this causeway, one police guy appeared up there on the hill. And he probably saw me recording with my phone. And what he did was he called the guy that I was with. He called him on his mobile phone and he asked him to tell me to stop filming immediately these stones. So from down here where I parked my car all the way up to the temple and to the pyramid, I was not allowed to film. Very strange. I don't really understand why. And again, officially this entire site is not open for tourists. It's protected by police or military. But if you show up and if you're persistent and you offer a decent tip, the same people who are supposed to protect this place from tourists, they will become your tour guide and will show you around. And that's exactly what we did here. So now we are at the top of the causeway which leads up to the pyramid, and you're immediately greeted by these beautiful, majestic granite columns. This temple complex is absolutely breathtaking. I believe the floor is made of basalt stone, and there are also countless massive granite fragments scattered all across the site, including these huge columns which are made from a single piece of granite. And there is so much to explore here. If you look closely at these stones, you will notice so many fascinating details. So now we are walking towards the Pyramid of Sahure, and the valley temple in front of it, it looks like as if a bomb exploded here. Everything is smashed and broken into pieces. But despite the destruction, you can still see enormous granite fragments in very unusual shapes. And there are these huge granite columns standing here. And you can see these round plates or foundations on the ground where the columns once stood. Many of them have a hole in the center as if the columns were fixed with some kind of pin or something. And you can see many different kinds of tool marks here as well. If you take time to look really closely, you will discover more and more strange details here in Abusir. And at this point, I would like to recommend, please check out our playlist about the geopolymer theory, because in these videos we explain in detail how the ancient Egyptians were able to cast their granite blocks instead of using hammer and chisels. And with this background knowledge, we should start looking at these places from a completely different perspective, because suddenly you notice clues that might hint at geopolymer techniques. In my last video, I have also explained how they were able to cast these massive polygonal blocks that have these strange shapes. And also we have explained how they created the formwork to create these kind of blocks here by using some kind of wooden pole in the corner of this temple here. So yeah, if you haven't seen these videos about the geopolymer theory, check it out here on our channel. And here in Abusir, I noticed another interesting detail. Look at this here, right at the corner where the granite blocks meet, there seems to be some kind of subterranean drainage construction. Maybe it was used to let excess water flow out of the stone mixture. And again, you see all kinds of strange tool marks here. Something else I noticed here, between the granite stones, you sometimes find limestone blocks with extremely intense weathering patterns. That's really strange. Why are some of the stones so heavily eroded while others look much cleaner? And there are also many drill holes and unusual shapes in this area here. Here you can see one of these drill holes. This is also red granite and it is very smooth from the inside. And I think this is probably one of the drill holes where the famous drill core came from that Flinders Petrie found here a couple of 100 years ago. And this drill core is now in the Petrie Museum in London. And I think the tool marks, they match very well these kind of drill holes. You can clearly see that they used a tube drill or a tubular drill, a hollow drill. The grooves on the drill hole, they have like a spiral shape. same as Petrie's drill core. And this is also a mystery that hasn't been solved yet, in my opinion, because this pattern, this spiral drill pattern, has not been replicated yet, because it suggests that they were able to push forward at a very high rate with this drill. If you look at this drill hole and the drill core that Flinders Petrie found here in Abusir, you can see very strange machining patterns. The groove that is on the drill hole and on the core, it follows a spiral pattern. And this suggests that this drill had a very high rate of pushing forward into the stone. And also, we can see that at the bottom of the drill hole, it has been knocked off. Yeah, if you imagine they used like a tube to drill in, then the core at some point when you stop drilling, you need to knock it off somehow. And I believe that's what we're seeing here. So in my opinion, this spiral groove that we see here in this hole, it has not been replicated and it has not been explained yet. Yeah, I mean, of course, we're looking, so to say, at primitive technology because it's just a tube drill, but we cannot explain the speed of how this tube drill was able to push forward. How can we replicate this spiral groove there? This is a very big mystery in my opinion. But yeah, they were able to do this. And I believe this might be also the reason why I was not allowed to film the Causeway, because we see a lot of these things at the Causeway. Yeah, and look at all these strange forms and shapes you see everywhere. And then we have also these massive limestone blocks with stairs carved into them. Here you can see again red granite from Aswan, and right in the middle there is a stone with extreme weathering pattern. What does that mean? How can this be explained? I don't really understand this. This entire complex must have looked absolutely gigantic in the past. Here you can see the beautiful granite columns, each carved from a single piece of stone. This could maybe have been an obelisk before, or something else, not sure. But it was also one single granite block. And something else really caught my attention. Look at the hieroglyphs on these columns here. To me, it looks like these hieroglyphs have been added later on. The columns themselves are carved in high relief, meaning the decorative elements stand out and the surrounding material was removed in a very precise and perfect way. But the hieroglyphs that you see here are much simpler and much more primitive. Yeah, they just have carved them inwards into the column. And visually, this looks odd to me. They placed it in this rectangular frame, small and very simple, on these huge, perfectly worked columns. And honestly, to me, this looks like vandalism. It doesn't look like this was done by the same craftsmen who created these masterpieces. To me, this looks like two completely different levels of quality. I mean, yeah, the hieroglyphs are still well done, but they are not comparable to the craftsmanship of the columns themselves. I mean, look at this. I would argue that if the artist who made the column had wanted to add inscriptions, they could have done it in a much better and more elegant way. Yeah, you see these holes everywhere in Abusir. They're really everywhere. And here I found something else interesting. This is a fragment of what seems to be a star ceiling. As far as I know, these star ceilings are usually associated with Saqqara, but apparently something similar existed here as well. Very interesting. Yeah, and again, you see these strange tool marks, and you really have to ask yourself, how did all this destruction happen and why? And we're looking at these gigantic granite and basalt blocks, and destroying something like this is also unbelievably difficult. I mean, the construction of this place, of course, is impressive, but the destruction is also really impressive. I mean, how do you do that? Here's another very fascinating basalt block. Look at this. Complicated shapes, drill holes, unusual cutouts. What is this? Why did they do this? What kind of device could have been installed here? Here I put some drawings from Ludwig Borchardt, who was a German Egyptologist who has excavated this place in the 19th century. Let me know in the comments, what is this mechanism here? And in case if you're wondering why there is always this mysterious blurred person here walking next to me, that was my tour guide, and you will understand soon why he's blurred. It's for his own protection, I would say. Now look at these blocks here. This is a gigantic limestone block with stairs carved into it. One single block. And there are several of them, and they probably stacked them on top of each other. Unbelievable, really. These stair blocks, as I call them, are really insane. And again, the destruction in this area is so hard to imagine. Many locals who live in this region here believe that this temple has some kind of healing powers. That's actually a common belief around here, that when people are sick, they travel to Abusir or to Abu Gharab to visit these kind of temples here. And they really believe that there is some kind of healing energy here. And this may sound a bit esoteric to some people here, but I really can confirm that many places in Egypt, such as the temples and pyramids, they have their own kind of energy. Some places they feel really dark and unsettling, and other places really feel calm and positive. And for me, this place here in Abusir, it also felt extremely positive and peaceful. There was a very calm energy in this place. And many Egyptians told me exactly that. Whenever you mention Abusir, they say, oh, it's a special place, it's a healing place, it has a very good positive energy. Many people told me that I should meditate there, that I should take time and sit down and meditate. There are even some locals who built some kind of retreats very near to these temples here because they really believe in the healing power of this area here. So that's also something really interesting. And honestly, I can confirm that. I mean, I'm not someone who chases every mystical story, but I can tell you in Egypt there are places that radiate a certain energy or a mood that affects you. And the pyramids are a very strong example of that. But again, this temple here, it also has some kind of positive, peaceful energy. So let's continue. This is also crazy. In Abusir, you also keep seeing these subterranean channels in the ground that seem to run even under the foundation of the temple. And we will see that more clearly later at the next pyramid. But it seems like these are water channels, or I don't know. These channels, they ran underneath the temples, beneath the structures. Yeah, you can see how the foundation is interrupted here where the channel passes. So meaning everything was built on top of these channels and the channel ran below the temple. This is really interesting. And what's even more interesting, there are photos or drawings from Ludwig Borchardt when he was excavating that place, and he mentioned copper pipes running down there. I will show you this. You can see here there are photos and drawings from Ludwig Borchardt from the 19th century. They found copper pipes that were running under this temple foundation. And I haven't seen any of these copper pipes. In fact, I wasn't even aware of it until I came back and did my research. But I believe that all these copper pipes have been removed. And maybe one of the reasons why we cannot look at the causeway is because the entire causeway has also this channel, and maybe they didn't remove the copper pipe completely, who knows. But I was really shocked to learn that they really had copper pipes down there. So there are several possibilities what could be the reason for that. This could be used for wiring, for electricity, or for some kind of liquids. I don't know. But this is really, really strange. And I find it shocking that we don't learn about this in school. I mean, honestly, who of you guys knew that the ancient Egyptians had copper pipes under their temples? Even for me, this was a completely new information. Crazy, really. Yeah, and look again at these massive granite blocks and the complicated shapes and these elegant carvings that they've done. And then look at some of these hieroglyphs. Nobody can convince me that this was all done at the same time by the same craftsmen with the same abilities. That just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't add up. And this phenomenon isn't just in Egypt. We see this all over the world. The further you go back in history, the more monumental and unexplainable the construction becomes. But then later, everything becomes more primitive. And in my opinion, that's also the reason why we find all over the world primitive carvings or primitive writings on these absolutely impressive and monumental structures. Some of the hieroglyphs here are better quality than others, but still, they are not the same quality as the columns themselves. I think we're looking at a kind of vandalism. The lines are not really straight. The execution of these hieroglyphs is not as refined as the piece itself. And really, you can spend your entire day here in Abusir and you keep on discovering new details. It's really unbelievable. And everything you see here is limestone, granite, and basalt. The black stones that you see are basalt stones. And this is also where you find the famous music stone of Abusir. But see for yourself. So here there is no sound. Here there is no sound. And this one. Wow. Such a beautiful sound, like a bell almost. Here again, drill hole, special shapes. It's so beautiful. Wow. Yeah, let's look at it again quickly. All of these stones are basalt. It's all the same material. But this particular stone, when you tap it with another stone, it produces a metallic sound. It really sounds like a bell. And the other stones around it make no sound. Very interesting phenomenon. The music stone of Abusir. I love it. So now let's talk about the Pyramid of Sahure. Officially, this pyramid is currently under restoration. That's what they claim. But there is absolutely zero sign of restoration work anywhere. The only thing I saw was that the entrance has been sealed with concrete and there is some kind of Arabic writing on it. There is nobody working here and there was also nobody working here for some time. I can promise you that. It doesn't even look like they plan to work or do anything here anytime soon. It's sealed with concrete. And as always in Egypt, filled and surrounded by trash. Yeah, so nobody's going inside. I will show you a few drawings here of what we know about the interior layout of this pyramid. And again, it's the typical Egyptian story. This pyramid has been explored, documented, excavated, and cleared from sand in modern times. Long ago though. And now it's again abandoned and left for the tooth of time and the desert to take over. And to me this is genuinely sad to see how they treat these places. They just close it for the public so that nobody can visit it again. And then they just wait until it will be covered by trash and sand again. Very sad. But that's how things work in Egypt apparently. It looked so fragile and for a moment I thought, God, I hope this doesn't collapse on me now. And you can see another massive basalt block placed above the entrance. But yeah, impossible to get in, I guess. Completely sealed. There is Arabic writing on it. Maybe someone can read it. If you can, please let us know in the comments what's written there. So now, after checking out the Pyramid of Sahure, we will move further south to the next pyramid. In the background, you can see already the Pyramid of Niuserre and the Pyramid of Neferirkare. Unfortunately, those are closed as well. Even with bakshish, we cannot get in. But the temple structures in front of these pyramids are also extremely interesting. Look at these enormous blocks embedded in the ground here. Many Egyptians call this place the Black Temple because it is built with these massive black basalt blocks. And all of these basalt stones, and also the granite stones, by the way, they all come from southern Egypt, from Aswan, which is around 900 kilometers away. And look at this. Even today, the alignment of these massive basalt blocks is still absolutely perfect. Look at this. It still aligns perfectly. The foundation here must be really solid, that it hasn't sunk or shifted at all. And many of these basalt blocks are extremely smooth also. Here you can see this channel again that runs underneath the temple. This stone here almost looks like quartzite. I don't think this is granite. I could be wrong though. Either it's red granite or quartzite, but I think it's a quartzite. Either way, very interesting. And you can see the channel runs really under the temple. And here you see again one of these round plates where the columns once stood. And in the background, you can see the step pyramid of Saqqara. Yeah, here you can see that the subterranean channel that runs beneath the temple, it leads to this giant stone bowl. And I believe both the channel and this bowl are made of quartzite. Please write in the comments what could have been the purpose of this. Why did they put this channel that leads to this bowl? There is a theory that the pyramids were some kind of chemical factory. Maybe this is connected somehow to this channel and this bowl. Please let us know in the comments. Yeah, and right next to this temple stands another extremely interesting structure, the Mastaba of Ptahshepses. This is one of the largest non-royal tomb complexes of ancient Egypt. And at one point, this structure was even classified as a pyramid because it shares many characteristics of a pyramid. This is one of the biggest and most mysterious mastabas in Egypt. This site was also under restoration and supposedly closed. But again, this is Egypt, where you just have to show interest and sometimes doors start magically opening. And from this moment on, the trip became truly interesting. And let me say this clearly in advance, because some people will claim now that I was trespassing or that I broke into the structure. I did not. I was accompanied by a government-approved tour guide and I was under constant supervision by officials. What you're about to see was not staged and it was definitely not planned. It happened right there in the moment and I simply went with it. So watch for yourself. Something else I've noticed many times in Egypt, especially at Giza and many other pyramids, you often see falcons or eagles circling above the pyramids, and I wonder why. Is it just because these are tall structures and that's just what these birds do? Or are these pyramids radiating some kind of energy that attract these falcons or eagles? If anyone has an explanation to that, please let us know in the comments. So now we're approaching the Mastaba of Ptahshepses. And again, something catches my eye here. In some of my recent videos, I mentioned that at almost all the very old sites in Egypt, you see these mudbrick walls that oftentimes surround the temple structures, or sometimes also mudbrick buildings. And they always look like they're melting away. And I honestly don't know what's older, the temple structure or the mudbrick wall. If you know what's older, please let us know. The design of this structure here is also very interesting. It looks almost modern in a strange way. You can see similar designs in Saqqara. These columns and also this wall, I've seen something similar in Saqqara. This mastaba is huge, by the way. There is a full perimeter wall around it, and it takes quite a long time to walk all around it. Here we were searching for the entrance because the main door was locked. We had to walk around for quite a while until we found a spot where we could enter. And again, I want to emphasize here again, we did not trespass. I was with an official that day. But at that time, I didn't realize yet that we wouldn't enter through the main door. But watch what happens. This is the secret entrance he took me to. You can see these massive limestone columns. Most of them are heavily eroded, especially the upper part. The lower parts are better preserved, probably because they were buried in the sand for a long time. But this erosion at the top, it's insane. It's completely eaten away. How does that happen? I mean, when we look at the limestone blocks of the pyramid, they also have been exposed for millennia. So why do we have this extreme erosion here on the top? How is this possible? Or is this from something else? But wait till you see the craziest part of this structure here. Down there is another very interesting sarcophagus. We will look at that in a moment. This complex is mostly made of limestone. Down there you can look into this shaft, and at the bottom there are two massive granite boxes, one small one and the larger one. And again, I find this whole place so strange because we see so many different types of stone blocks, so many different types of how they have been joined together. It's very difficult to tell what belongs to which period, what is original, what is refurbishment. Very difficult to understand this place. And in my opinion, there is also a possibility that behind these boxes, maybe there are more passages or shafts leading down. Who knows? There are examples in Egypt. It's not often shown in mainstream documentaries, but there are a few examples where we have this kind of sarcophagus that were actually just a decoy, and behind it were more passages leading further down. I don't know if that's also the case here, but to me it looks like a lot has been closed there. Maybe there were more passages, who knows? In one of my next videos, I will show you a prime example of this. There are definitely subterranean structures in Egypt where they have used this kind of sarcophagus just to hide more tunnels. I will show you this in one of my next videos, but let's continue for now. By the way, this entire structure here was also discovered by Richard Lepsius, the German Egyptologist. And when Lepsius discovered this structure in the 19th century, he believed that this was a pyramid. And he included this structure in the famous Lepsius pyramid list. And a few meters away, there is an access tunnel leading down to these boxes. But guess what? This door was also locked with a padlock, but my amazing companion had what I call an Egyptian key. And you're about to see the Egyptian key now. The Egyptian key was simply a stone. Yeah, he took a stone and hammered on the padlock until it opened.
He's an expert. Not easy.
Yeah, that's how the Egyptian key works. And the funny part is, later he was able to close the lock again and it looked like as if nothing ever happened. Yeah, there it is, the Egyptian key. Just a stone. Yeah, and then we went inside. Of course, I didn't hesitate to go down there. So I climbed down, and once again, this is a very narrow access shaft. And you really have to ask yourself, why did they make it so narrow? I mean, what could be a reason for that? And then these massive blocks. Look at these gigantic blocks. This is really a special place. Yeah, and now comes one of the most unique details I've ever seen in Egypt. This is a granite sarcophagus with a limestone inlay. Yeah, you can see inside this granite sarcophagus, there is a perfectly fitted inner layer of limestone. I have no idea why they did that or what the purpose was, but this is incredibly difficult to make. And also I don't know how they made this. Unfortunately, I only noticed this later when I was back in my hotel reviewing the footage, because otherwise I would have filmed it in much greater detail, but I have never heard of anything like that anywhere else in Egypt. I only know this from here, from Abusir. So this is extremely unusual. What could this have been used for? If anyone has an idea, please let us know in the comments. And then we have again these nubs here on the cover of this sarcophagus. And in my last video, I have explained the phenomenon of these megalithic nubs that we find at megalithic structures all over the world. But here in this case, it looks like these nubs had a truly practical function to lift the cover with some ropes or something. But if you're interested in this geopolymer theory, please check out our last video. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to look inside the larger sarcophagus to see if it also has this limestone inlay. But look at the size of these blocks here. This is really unbelievable. I personally believe there is more down there. And you can see that something has been sealed or walled up here with masonry. Both of these boxes are made of red granite from Aswan. And look at the precision. Tja, who knows? Maybe this structure here continues down there. But I'm very grateful that I had the chance to go down there, because you never know how long these things will still be possible in Egypt. There's a lot of changes happening in Egypt. A lot is being modernized. So I'm really grateful for this experience. Yeah, and then he closed the gate right behind me with the lock again, as if none of it ever happened. This is the Mastaba of Ptahshepses. It was considered a pyramid for a long time. Who knows, maybe it once really was a pyramid. But these weathered columns, it's really, really shocking. How is this possible? It almost looks like as if some kind of acid ate the stone up or something. Unbelievable. And again, you see another underground channel or drainage system here. If anyone knows what this is, please let us know in the comments. Very interesting. By the way, these granite sarcophagus, they look exactly like the one I found in my doom in the Mastaba 17. The video is also very interesting. I will link it here. Check out the Mastaba 17. Now, the real reason I went to Abusir that day, I wanted to see the so-called unfinished pyramid of Neferefre. I showed my guide on Google Maps where I wanted to go, but he didn't really know exactly which structure I was looking for. So he ended up showing me everything here in Abusir first. But at the end of that day, I still haven't seen the unfinished pyramid of Neferefre. And by the way, Egypt has many of these so-called unfinished pyramids. The most famous one is the unfinished pyramid of Zawyet el-Aryan. This structure was seized by the Egyptian military in the 1960s, and they filled it up with sand and they built a giant high security military base around it. And today, nobody can look at this structure or visit it in any form. Then we have the unfinished pyramid of Djedefre in Abu Rawash. We have visited this structure as well. Also highly interesting. And I noticed that all of these so-called unfinished pyramids, they share some very strange characteristics. First of all, they all look kind of similar, which would mean that if they were truly unfinished, then they were all abandoned in the same construction phase, which is very strange already. Secondly, these unfinished pyramids are often lined with granite blocks, both from the inside and outside. And to me, that makes no sense. Because why would you place the granite casing blocks if the pyramid was not even close to completion? I find this very interesting. So a few days later, I went back to Abusir and we went searching for this unfinished pyramid. Here I'm going to show you some satellite images. This is the unfinished pyramid of Neferefre in Abusir. And next to it, you can see the unfinished pyramid of Zawyet el-Aryan and the unfinished pyramid of Abu Rawash, also called the unfinished pyramid of Djedefre. And you can see they were all left in a very similar condition. And I find it very hard to believe that this is all a coincidence. These are just 3 significant examples, but there are more unfinished pyramids in Egypt. In my next videos, I will show you more of them. So a few days later, after studying some satellite images on Google Earth, so we walked past a few pyramids again, and at first sight I thought this was the structure I was looking for, but it wasn't. This one right here is the Lepsius pyramid number 24. This one was also discovered, documented and excavated in the 19th century by Richard Lepsius. And this is the Lepsius pyramid number 24. Officially, this one is closed as well, as you can see. It's not possible to go inside. The entrance is sealed. And in my opinion, it looks like something here was modified later using smaller stones. But I don't know much more about this structure here. Yeah, I was still looking for the so-called unfinished pyramid of Neferefre. But this one here also looks like an unfinished pyramid. But yeah, let's continue. So this structure that you see here, this is the so-called unfinished pyramid of Abusir. From outside, it looks very similar to the unfinished pyramid of Djedefre in Abu Rawash. I will upload the video here soon. And here again, you will find this mud brick wall that looks like almost totally melted. And here's some barbed wire also. So you can clearly see this area is not meant for tourists. And the structure is also built from massive limestone blocks. But you can also find granite fragments scattered around, just like at the Pyramid of Djedefre in Abu Rawash. In my opinion, what we're seeing here are fragments of granite casing stones. And again, it looks like stones were added in different periods of time. And look at this mud brick wall, really. These mud bricks eventually they turn back into sand. They completely crumble and melt away. What's older, the mud brick wall or this unfinished pyramid? It's really melting. And here you can see the different styles of restoration or rebuilding. Huge blocks on one side, smaller masonry on the other side. Sometimes there's even mortar or concrete between the small blocks. Different weathering patterns. Then again, huge blocks. It's really difficult to understand what exactly happened here. So now let's go inside. Totally abandoned this place. Nobody is ever visiting this structure. And with every day that nobody takes care of these places, they sink deeper and deeper into the desert sand. If the Egyptian government doesn't change its course radically in the next few years, places like this will be completely buried again. And honestly, I believe that's exactly what they're looking for. They want it to disappear back into the desert so people forget. Otherwise, how can you explain that such important sites are simply left to decay? If I come back next year here, it will be probably even deeper buried in the sand. It's really a disaster. And you can see it goes down again, like a trench was cut into the bedrock. And we don't know how deep the structure goes because we're walking on desert sand, right? And you can see there are granite fragments down there. Left and right, there are big granite blocks. So most likely this place was lined with granite already and it has been destroyed. Yeah, and there you can see an entrance door, a small entrance door. Look at the amount of trash, guys. This is really crazy. And again, down there we find massive granite blocks. Massive granite blocks. This place hasn't been cleaned in years. Really, it's been years, guys. And there's also some kind of arc. And I keep asking myself, really, what is this place? What kind of complex is this? I really have a hard time to believe that this was really supposed to be a pyramid. I mean, on one hand, it looks very, very similar to Abu Rawash, but on the other hand, also very different. And I think it's safe to assume that this structure goes much deeper. Yeah, and here you can see how much these ancient places matter to the Egyptian government. Huh? Zero. The only thing that matters is how can we make more money. And the trash, everything is full of trash. Maybe soon I will make a video only about trash in ancient Egypt, because it's everywhere. Look at this granite block here. It has a radius, a curve, it's concave. And I have seen an exactly similar stone at Abu Rawash. This is also a very strange coincidence. Why do we see these bended granite blocks here at these unfinished pyramids? It's curved, it has a radius. Yeah, it's a curved, super smooth granite stone. I don't think this is a coincidence. And in my opinion, we can also clearly see here that this place has been refurbished and it has been changed in different time periods. Yeah, look at this. To me, it almost looks like there could be a passage behind this. It looks like they have closed some passages here. Hard to say though. But what is really remarkable is how they let all of this rot away in the desert, really. It was excavated decades or maybe even centuries ago by hard-working, motivated people, and now they just abandon it and let it fill with trash and let it disappear under the sand again. This is really a disaster. Yeah, there is always so much talking in Egypt, but I see here absolutely zero effort to preserve or maintain anything here. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But yeah, there are even people online who complain when I visit this kind of sites. Yeah, they say, oh, you destroy it by walking there. Yeah, there is a reason this is closed for visitors because you cannot touch it. It will be destroyed. Yeah, also there are people who are outraged when somebody, for example, climbs the pyramid or something or taps a stone somewhere at the Giza plateau. They say, oh, this is a catastrophe. You are destroying the ancient monuments. But honestly, if you look at sites like this, let's be real. In Egypt, they don't care at all. And also, let's not forget, all of these abandoned ancient sites in Egypt that are not protected, they are basically like a self-service buffet. If somebody wants to go there and collect ancient granite stones or whatever, nobody would stop you. You can easily pull up here with 10 pickup trucks and you can load them full with stones. Nobody will stop you. Nobody. So we really have to look at this a little bit more rationally. There is another interesting theory about these so-called unfinished pyramids. Maybe these so-called unfinished pyramids were actually some kind of observatory. That they used these trenches to observe celestial bodies or planets. I find that idea pretty interesting, especially because we know that same as the pyramids, the so-called unfinished pyramids are also perfectly aligned to the northeast, southwest. And what's also interesting is that Zawyet el-Aryan can be translated to the angle of Orion or the corner of Orion. And if you connect that to the idea that these places may be some kind of observatories for looking at planets or stars, it suddenly makes a lot of sense. So I find that really fascinating. But either way, there is so much more to explore and so many more questions to ask about these unfinished pyramids. And I have many more of these structures on my list. I will try to visit them all one by one when I'm in Egypt. This pyramid here is also very interesting. This is the Pyramid of Nefertari. You can see how the outer layer is crumbling away and underneath a step pyramid structure appears. I find it really remarkable how the casing falls away and after so many years the core suddenly becomes visible again. And by the way, this is another global phenomenon. Not only do we find pyramids worldwide, we also find step pyramids worldwide. Sometimes also 7-tier step pyramids that look incredibly similar. For example, there is one huge step pyramid in Cambodia and many in Central America and also in Egypt or the Canary Islands. And some people believe that all of these structures were built by the descendants of the Atlantean race who spread across the world after the last cataclysm and passed their knowledge to different cultures around the world. The Egyptians, the Canarians, the Peruvians, and so on. And something else I found during my research here about Abusir. In Abusir el-Melek, which is a bit further south, but it also carries the name Abusir, there hundreds of ancient Egyptian mummies were found. In 2017, an international research team led by the University of Tübingen and the Max Planck Institute from Germany, they succeeded for the first time in decoding the complete genome of ancient Egyptian mummies. And they found that modern Egyptians are genetically closer related to populations south of the Sahara than the ancient Egyptians were. The genetic study showed that the ancient Egyptians were genetically most closely related to the populations of the ancient Middle East and Europe. So in other words, the ancient Egyptians were Aryans or Indo-Europeans. And this applies especially to the ruling class, meaning the pharaohs and the kings, were of Indo-European descent and not sub-Saharan Africans. Many people hear this for the first time because people don't like to talk about this very often and few creators cover this on YouTube. But genetics has shown that the ruling class in Egypt was not of sub-Saharan African descent. And now people will say, yeah, but the Nubians were black. No, not necessarily. Many Nubian mummies were also red-haired or blonde. I actually even planned a trip to Sudan because in the capital Khartoum there was a museum where until recently you were able to see Nubian mummies with red hair. But unfortunately Sudan has suffered a brutal civil war in the recent years, and when I researched this topic I learned that the only museum where you could still see these red-haired Nubian mummies was completely destroyed and looted, and all the mummies are gone now. Yeah, unfortunately, we cannot see them anymore. They have all been ransacked and looted and probably sold to the black market. But yeah, this is a highly controversial topic. but I find this very interesting. But it also makes sense because the Sahara has always been a natural barrier between the populations of south of the Sahara and the ancient Egyptians. There was never much mixing going on, only in the very recent times. And what's also important, these mummies that have been studied in this genetic study, they are all from a relatively late period, roughly from around 1400 BC to 400 AD. And that makes the result of the study even more meaningful, because since they found almost no sub-Saharan ancestry in these mummies that stem from a quite late period of ancient Egypt, then logically the previous dynasties would have had even less admixture from sub-Saharan genetics. So this means that the major genetic mixing between the race of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and the sub-Saharan Africans happened after 400 AD in recent times. And I guess some people find this very hard to accept because it doesn't align with the woke agenda, but we may touch on this topic again from time to time here on the channel. And yeah, now as promised, here are the clips which I managed to record on the way up to the pyramid in the area where filming is normally forbidden. I still don't know why it's not allowed, but what I noticed is this. You can see a channel that seems to run from the pyramid all the way down. And I have never seen anything like that at any other pyramid. So this is really a special feature here. And also remember that one of the early explorers here mentioned more than 100 years ago that there were copper pipes running in these channels, which it seems like they have removed these copper pipes. So yeah, this is really a special characteristic of this place here in Abusir. And that's where the policeman or military guy appeared. And he noticed that I was filming, and then he called my guide and told him to make me stop filming. So yeah, this was really interesting. And something else fascinated me here. Here we can see a red granite stone with a spherical cavity. This is not a normal cylindrical drill hole, but they carved out a sphere, like a ball. I don't really know how they did that or what's the purpose of that. But yeah, for some reason, this entire area from the columns at the top until the street, it's forbidden to record. And officially, this entire place is not open for tourism, but they don't seem to enforce this very strictly. Yeah, very strange. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this video about Abusir, and I hope I was able to show you some things that you haven't seen before. As always, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you like to support us with a small donation, you can find the PayPal link in the description. Thank you so much for your time, have a wonderful day and see you in the next video. Ciao!